What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Pro Tabletop. I am Mad Cause Brad, or Brad Weir as you know me. Some of you know me as one, some of you know me as the other. Well, we are just cranking videos out right now. So we have also seen in releases today about additional detachments and how much CP they cost. Let's jump right into it. So we have seen a battalion and what that is going to cost, which was 3 CP, and what it can get you. Now we have a look at a patrol detachment. So essentially, typically you're going to say, okay, I'm running a battalion detachment, but I want to run something else as well. Or maybe you just want to run like a vanguard or 2 vanguards or, a spearhead or something like that. We don't know what those are going to cost yet. So all we can do is talk about and know exactly what a battalion and patrol looks like. So if you're playing a Strike Force game, you're playing a battalion, it's going to cost you 3 CP. You're going to put your warlord in there. It's going to gain you back 3 CP, right? So now you're at 12 CP. And now you want to take a patrol detachment. Well, it's going to cost you 2 more command points. So now you're down to 10. And if you do that backwards and you say, oh, I need my warlord to be in my patrol detachment, well, you're only going to gain 2 CP, and then you do a battalion, that's going to cost you 3. So now you're down to 9. So that's before you buy extra relics or warlord traits or all these things. So you got all these armies that need to buy all this stuff pregame. They're going to really have to focus in on being a mono-faction, mono-detachment army. And that's really going to start to change how you see armies being built, because the number of HQ slots that you can bring and not having, 6, 7, 8 possible characters, right? Because you're trying to get 3 detachments. Now you go down to a battalion, it's like, I'm going to have 3. And a very specific example I'll use is Eldar. Eldar needs their buffs for their spears, then their wraith blades, and all these things. And now you go, okay, you run a battalion, and you can only have 3 HQ. So what are you going to do? You're going to take a Farseer and 2 Warlocks. So you're going to be very limited to the powers and how you can, use those powers. So now you start looking at like, oh, well, maybe you have to take a Warlock Conclave to be able to get an extra power if you want to stay, in that. And now it's eating up your points, and it just kind of goes into this whole hole of how do you build these lists in order for how you're going to function. So I think you're going to start to see a lot of different lists built based around a single battalion detachment or a single, like Vanguard detachment or something like that, where you're just super limited and the play styles are going to be way different. I'm not okay with spending 2 CP to add a patrol detachment. And I can't imagine that, the Vanguards and the Outriders and the Spearheads and, the super heavies and all these things are going to be any different. They were all 1 CP before. So why would they be any, different than what this patrol is, if not more, right? If not 3 CP, which is just crazy to even think about. So you got to start thinking, now you have an Ultramarine player. Let's talk about Thomas. He has Gilliman that he has to, take a super heavy auxiliary detachment. And if that's going to cost him an additional 2 CP, like then you start thinking like, holy cow, how does this happen? Like it's nuts. And sure, there's ways for him to cancel CP out by himself and stuff, so he kind of pays for it by himself, but it's costing you additional CP no matter how you look at it. So the rules remain the same within this patrol for the dedicated transports, where you have to have in infantry. See, that's interesting. It's infantry and it's not troops, which is great. And I think that everybody's mind goes straight to like, it's troops. So, for me, when I was talking about the Wraith Blades and how much I like them, and, if you want to split them up into smaller groups, into Wave Serpents or something like that, you can just take the transports without having to take the infantry, or without taking troops, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, overall, it's rough. It's going to be rough. You have these command points to start with. You're gaining command points for every turn, so sure, you still have more than you probably had before. It's going to be very interesting on how lists are going to start to be built And I'm just going to assume that all the other detachments are 2 CP now instead of 1, which is just wildly different. So get to the drawing board, start working your brains, and think about what type of lists are you going to bring to the table? How does spending CP instead of gaining CP really affect your list building? And we don't know if there's going to be anything additional that says, hey, if these detachments are not the same faction, does it cost you more? Don't know. So, yeah, how does this hurt soup? How does this, affect, mono factions? Or is there going to be more mono factions and more advantages and stuff like that? Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun things. What faction do you play? And how does this affect your faction? Let me know. Peace out.